I'm going to try to get through this podcast without crying. There it is. This episode's going to be heavy. I don't want it to be like too funny. Usually like the rest of my podcasts are, like I always throw in a joke in there. This one, I don't think I could do that. Although I probably will, because that's how I get through trauma. I was really debating about talking about this because I feel like it's such, one, it's very fresh in my life with what happened, and two, it's a lot. Like I work in social media and stuff, and like I do a lot of vlogs and like lifestyle stuff on my Instagram and TikTok, but it's like this is different. My podcast is a little bit different. I need it to be more real and talk about my life, and I think sometimes I get really uncomfortable with speaking about personal things that happen to me, just because like I don't want noise, I don't want comments. I can get enough hate comments like on regular crap that I post. I don't need it when I'm spiraling, okay? And it's important. We talk about important things on this podcast, okay? We talk about real life, we talk about real stuff. So really, I just need to bite the bullet and stop being scared of what other people think about my life and my choices. But it's hard to talk about because it just happened. And I feel like that's when I need to talk about these problems right away, because they're fresh and they're real. And then the advice that I give is going to be a lot more real, But obviously, based on the title of this video, you're probably like, what the heck are you talking about? And today I really want to touch on the topic of forgiveness. Now, this past, I want to say 2 years have been extremely difficult for me and my family. My dad at around 2017, 2018, I think, got diagnosed with dementia. Now, in the beginning, we didn't understand like what type of dementia he had. I didn't even know there were certain types, but there are. And sometimes they're not as bad and sometimes they're extreme. My dad got diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. And that is like the most severe, hard to deal with. It affects not only your mind, but it affects your body too. Now that we have that as the basis, let's go back in time a little bit. I did not grow up with the best relationship with him. He was there physically, but emotionally, he was just not great. He yelled all the time. He slammed doors all the time. He criticized us all the time. It was like in my family, like if there was a happy moment and there was a happy time, you best believe that that somehow that day is gonna end in a slammed door. It's gonna end in a fight, maybe physical, maybe just verbal. It's gonna end somewhere. Like if you're having a good day, I would just know and like prepare myself, be like, this is gonna get ruined in 3.5 seconds. But it was mostly ruined because of my dad. Okay, because he just had like the shortest fuse. He was just an angry person. So I would start to distance myself from him, and we became like not as close. He just like never really had a job. He never had a good job. Couldn't take care of us financially very well. When I had to move in with him, he was renting a room in somebody else's house. He rented a room for me in that same house. And this house was an Alcohol Anonymous safe haven. Was I in Alcohol Anonymous? No, I was an 18-year-old girl, okay? I was living with other people who were in AA and them trying to get their lives together. So you can imagine me living with 3 men who were all alcoholics, including my dad. Yeah, it was awkward. It was weird. And that even just like made my relationship with him even worse. At some point, I just really didn't want like any part of it, because I'm like, how, first of all, as a parent, especially now that I'm a parent, I'm like, how as a parent can you put your kid through something like that? Like, how can you not just get up off of your butt and work hard and get a job and make money and support your family? Like, really, how hard is that? I understand. I'm not asking to be rich. I never asked to be rich. I don't even ask to be rich right now, babe. I just wanted to not live in an Alcohol Anonymous house. Although I will tell you, that was a great house. I had a pool. I digress. But you get my point, okay? I just didn't feel great around him at times. He was always an angry person and like couldn't take care of me. But I just need to give you a little bit backstory of like how my relationship with my dad was growing up in the first place. Fast forward years later, I have my own husband, I have my own kids, I have my own family, my little bubble, we're doing great, we're growing, it's wonderful. And I knew that my dad was diagnosed with dementia. He was living with my uncle at the time, and I love my uncle. He's an amazing person, but he was tired, you know? He was like, listen, your dad loves you. I think it would be great to better your relationship with your dad. Can you help us out? Like, 'cause my dad couldn't live alone. So he was like, how about we try to get you a house, and then maybe your dad can live in a basement or something, have like a little in-law suite, you know what I mean? And so we were really thinking about it, because at this point in my life, I had already converted to Christianity. I kind of already had like a basis of forgiveness in my mind, and I've kind of gotten over my childhood at this point. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe we can think about it. I don't know. One day. Okay, this is, baby girl, this is why you need to be careful with what you wish for, really careful with what you pray for. Because one day I was in church and I was noticing I have a lot of blessings in my life, and it's kind of crazy. And I have a lot of people. I have really good friends. I have really good in-laws. You know, I have good family. They really have done a lot of stuff for me. I wouldn't call myself selfish, but I'm just not as giving as the other people are in my life to me. You know, I feel like I can give more, but I haven't. And so one day I was praying and I was like, God, just give me a chance to be giving. Give me a chance to where I can like help somebody like other people have helped me in my life. You know, I'm not really in that position financially. I can't like help someone out that way, but like emotionally, girl, I'll be there. I'll sit with you. I'll have a margarita. I'll talk about your life. Okay, I'm that friend. I always will be. Until I guess God was just really on something that day, and he said, okay, this is exactly what I've been wanting, because I'm going to give it to you. What did he do? The next week, I get a call from my uncle. Now, we live in a 2-bedroom apartment. He's not going to stay with us in this apartment. We would have to buy a house. Okay, that would be a whole situation. Until my uncle calls me and he goes, Deanna, you know what I just found out? The apartment under you is free. It's for rent. So what if your dad just lived below you in the apartment? And I said, this immediately. I knew this was God. Immediately I said, you know what? Maybe you took my prayer too seriously, because I don't know if I can do that. I ended up doing it. We ended up moving my dad below me. And girl, it was something else. Let me tell you, it was something else. Now, at this point in my dad's life, my relationship with him has healed a lot from when I was young. He was sober. He had been sober for like 10 plus years. Okay. And at this point, it was just kind of like, I felt sorry for him because of the dementia. And at this point, his stage in the dementia wasn't even that bad. He was just like forgetting to take medicines, couldn't really cook for himself that much. Like he just couldn't live alone, but he was still independent. And so that's why I agreed to this. And I was like, okay, yeah, you know what? This was my blessing, I guess. This is what I asked for. I asked to get a chance to help somebody out, and I guess this is it. So let's go ahead and do it. Sign the lease. He moves in. Everything's fine for like, I would say like 4-5 months. Girl, it got messy. I hated my life. Let me tell you why. This is before we knew that he had the most aggressive form of dementia, okay? We were thinking like, listen, this dementia could play out for like 5, 6, 7 more years of him being at the same like mental cognitive level, right? He started to downfall so fast. He started getting swelling like all throughout his legs, like was saying it was painful to walk, so I'd have to go check on him constantly. Then it turned into him not eating his food that I would make. He was like throwing away food in the trash can. And let me mind you, I had to make all of his food. I had to do his grocery shopping, put the groceries up, make the food all the time. Okay, I'm upstairs taking care of 2 little kids. And let me tell you, I had a 3-year-old and a newborn during this time. So you can imagine, okay, you can imagine the chaos that I was going through. It slowly progressed even more into him being incontinent, which means he had to wear adult diapers. Okay, I don't want to embarrass him too much. No, you know what? I'm going to get real. Okay, I'm going to get extremely real with how the situation was. He was going number 1 and 2 on the floor almost daily. Okay, maybe 2-3 times a week, I was called downstairs to his apartment to clean up that mess with a 2-month-old in my arm and a 3-year-old running around while my husband is working, and I have to do this. And I have to shower him, and I have to basically, I'm sorry to say this, but basically take care of another kid. Except this time, it's my dad. And I could tell he was so embarrassed. There were times he really didn't know what was going on, but there were other times where he was just so embarrassed. Because obviously you don't want your daughter to have to bathe you as a dad. Like that's terrible. And of course, me at this time, I was frustrated and angry, but I didn't want him to see that. And so I would just make jokes. I would shower him and I would just make jokes to him to make him feel better. And of course, I would go upstairs and then cry, but I had to hold myself together. Now, this went on for 4 months, and it wasn't just the physical stuff that I had to deal with. It was also just the mental stuff of him being so frustrated that he was knowing that he was declining. Then it was times of he would be so confused as to where he is. Like he would just open his door, the apartment door at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning and just start screaming my name. Deanna, Deanna, just screaming my name. So I would be woken up and I hear him. And there were times where my neighbors would be across the street going, "Shut up!" And I'm like, oh my gosh, obviously my neighbors don't know his situation. Like, what if they come out and like punch him in the face or something, you know? Like, they don't know what's going on. It just became so difficult because I had, at this point, a 3-4-month-old baby who's already waking me up like every other hour to breastfeed. And then I have my dad downstairs screaming like this. And yeah, I had some help from my husband, but it's like he has a full-time job. He can't like do this constantly all the time too. And it was just me. And I just remember being so frustrated with God and with my dad and everything that was going on. And I was like, how can I ask to be more giving, but I'm going through almost complete hell? Like, this is not what I asked for. I asked to maybe like be invited to a birthday party and give him a good present or something. I didn't ask for this. This is extreme. I just remember I had already kind of mentally forgiven my dad at this point, but there was still something in the back, and what I didn't realize was coming was resentment. Resentment was the strongest thing that was coming through, because I'm like, why am I now as an adult, when my life is starting, when I'm supposed to have the best years in my life right now with my husband and my young kids, and I'm having to take care of my dad who really didn't even take care of me to his best ability. Like, sure, he was there physically and he, you know, would tell me he loved me all the time, and there were good times. I'm not saying there weren't. And eventually, after like 4 or 5 months of this, we got him into a nursing home. Now, when he got into the nursing home, my stress was so much better, obviously, because I wasn't dealing with this. But I started noticing that after he was gone, I slowly started to forgive more. I got out of the resentment, and I started realizing that what I went through was meant to happen for me and for my dad. Even if I don't understand the bigger picture, it was meant to happen. And so after he got into the nursing home, things declined. And I think he was there for about, oh my goodness, a year? 2 years? Girl, I don't know what's been happening the past 2 years. I think he was there for 2 years. And this brings me fast forward into what I'm trying to talk about now. So his dementia started progressing really bad. And we kind of already knew as a family, we were preparing ourselves, you know, for a passing to potentially happen. And we've been preparing ourselves for this, I think, for like the past 6 months. So obviously, as you can tell by the title of this video, he ended up passing the end of May. Okay. It was hard. At the end of his life, he was put on hospice. If you don't know what hospice is, it's basically just like extra care from nurses, right? But it's like, if you've ever seen a hospice patient, they are like on their deathbed. It is not pretty. It's not a pretty sight. But I was there a lot. and I came to visit him a lot during his last days. And while he was living with me, this is something extremely important to the basis of what I'm getting at. My dad knew that he didn't live a good life. And when he had a little bit of cognitive help there, like he still was present somewhat before he was on hospice, I wanted to get him baptized. And I talked to him about Jesus, about God, and he agreed every single time. Said, yes, I want to do this. Yes, I understand. I want to be baptized. And in his last days, that's what I did. And I was able to give him that gift. I talked with my priest and everything. He came over, baptized him, and he came over and baptized him. And I don't know why, I didn't really think that I would feel that much, but as soon as that happened, I started seeing my dad as God's son instead of my dad. And I realized we can be angry at our parents. It's okay to have those emotions. It's okay to have that feeling, like it's understandable. But at the end of the day, they are having their lives for the first time, just like we are. They don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. Everybody messes up. Everybody makes mistakes. But what matters at the end of the road is how can you fix those mistakes? And how can you ask for forgiveness? And I realized in that moment, like if God can forgive, if God can forgive all of us for living a sinful life, then why can't I forgive him? Why do I still hold on to resentment? All of us are called and asked to forgive. Why can't I do it? And so this is what I want to talk to you about. If there's somebody in your life that you just can't forgive, I mean, this person has done you wrong for years, and I'm well aware that there are so many people out there with way worse parents than I did, who did unspeakable things. And it's so hard to move past this forgiveness. But once you finally just let it go, it literally sets you free. And that is such a ugly cliche thing to say. And I'm so sorry I said it like that, but it's true. Like once I finally felt forgiveness, and like I said in the past, I had said I had already like forgiven my dad and like gone through it. But girl, once I did not fully forgive. And I feel like forgiveness, you can go in stages. It doesn't all have to be thrown out at once. You don't all have to say, okay, I forgive you, everything's good. Because that's not how it works. That's not how forgiveness works. Forgiveness comes in stages. And that's what I learned about this experience. I had finally said, okay, I'm going to let it go and just forgive my dad. But the resentment was still there. And once the resentment left, the forgiveness increased. And then once I was able to get to the final stage of realizing that we're literally just all human and everybody makes mistakes, and usually there's background reasons as to why people are the way that they are. And once you get like all of these three things together and they morph and you get deeper into the forgiveness, I feel like 10,000 pounds have been lifted from my shoulders. And I can't explain it any other way than that, because I've never felt this type of relief in my life, because I didn't realize that I was really holding on to that trauma, and I was holding on to that negative energy for so many years, and it's just been hidden throughout my mind and throughout my body, and it's gone. And after my dad passed, I spoke at his funeral, and I was real, and I said, listen, my dad drank. He wasn't a great dad at times, which is like not great to say at a funeral. You know, usually people at a funeral are like, this person's amazing and they're an angel and they're in heaven. Goodbye. But no, I wanted to be real because it's true. When people die, we always just speak about how amazing they were, but that's not life. It's not. Because even though he wasn't an amazing person 100%, what matters the most at the end is that he was forgiven and he asked for forgiveness, not only from God, but I know he needed that forgiveness from me. And it's so weird because now I feel like God has healed me with forgiveness in such a different way, because I tried to like go back in the past and like replay bad things that happened in my family, and I can't. Like, yeah, I know in the beginning of this video I described how things were, but it was like, it's a description, but when I tried to like have those memories and look back to all the negative times. I literally can't. It's almost like that feeling of, like, when you're talking and you kind of like forget the word that you're trying to say in the middle. Like, give me that that thing over there, that thing. And like your mind is just blank in that moment. You cannot think of that word. That's exactly how it feels. I feel like God just like completely healed me. And so that's just what I want to say to you. Like, if you're holding on to all of this and you just really can't bring yourself to forgive, just keep working at it, because I understand how hard it is to let go. And I understand the resentment that you can have for so many years. But at the end of the day, what does it matter? If this person is out of your life, and even if they didn't ask for forgiveness, even you feel like they don't deserve your forgiveness, being able to move past that and being able to just let go for yourself, it lifts up so much. Sorry, I was really trying not to cry. But it's also really weird because I'm filming this during Father's Day. And so the title of this video is I made it because even though he's gone, I'm not happy that he's gone. I'm happy that his suffering is over. And I'm happy that the version of him that I held on to for so many years is gone. And I know he's in heaven. He was baptized. He was forgiven. I know he is. And I know he's okay. And you can say whatever you want, believe whatever you want, think whatever you want, but those are my thoughts. And I'm happy. I'm ecstatic. So if you're going through something like this, if you've ever cared for anybody physically like this in your family, I understand. I know it's hard. But I'm here to tell you and promise you that when you finally forgive, it's so much better. And so I don't want to sit here in this podcast and just like throw all of these tips and tricks and amazing things about how to get through forgiveness, because there's lots of other podcasts out there that you can listen to about that. Oh my gosh, my camera died like right when I was getting so good and sentimental. Like, how freaking rude. But I'm going to continue on my phone. But I'm saying I want this to come from like a real story. And I want you to find comfort in this and know that you're not alone if you're going through similar things. And you're going to get through it, okay? Just like I did. So, I love you. And always remember, don't be dumb.